Grant, I apologize. I had no idea you were going to run that ad there, and I just kept talking over it. So for those of you who do subscribe to Esl SC2B, congratulations. You got to hear Creighton being very confused about where Grant is on. The good news is there's no more need for confusion. We're already into our next match here in Group B. And actually, I think maybe Goblin versus Garitos was a bit of a favored match for Goblin, right? We probably expected the up-and-coming Protoss player from Croatia to win that one. But this series, Grant, much, much closer between these two players.
Yeah, I would agree. I certainly think if I was to straight away call a favorite, Vanya is, he's BratOK. He's the Russian god. People meme about him being the best player in the world, and who knows? I've not yet been proved otherwise. Vanya looks very, very solid in his game yesterday or the day before, where he played and won 2-0 against Garitos. So far, Garito is struggling a little bit, so maybe not the best indicator, but this should be a good one. Creighton, would you like to introduce our first player?
I would. Spawning in the bottom left-hand side here in the red, representing Russia and Starcom Gaming, it's our Terran player, BratOK.
And his opponent in the top right, representing B100, he is the Russian Zerg player. In blue, it's Vanya.
So, last game we saw two young players, both sort of in the early stages of their StarCraft 2 career, right? Goblin on a huge upward swing right now. Garitos also a fresh young face out of France. Really nice to see new players entering the scene. This series, we actually have two very different players at two very different points in their career. As you said, BratOK, one of the old dogs of StarCraft 2, one of the oldest StarCraft 2 players I know, and a legend for years and years.
Yeah, Vanya, he's been around a while. He was one of those ladder heroes, and he disappears and comes back, and he's pretty good online, but never made a deep run in one of his premier events. But it feels like this year, and maybe the tail end of last year, he really picked it up. And now he's starting to show some of that promise that we get so much from these EU Zergs, where you're like, maybe, just maybe, he can take it to a whole new level. But he needs to start off, beating the players he needs to beat. If he wants to get through his group, he has to beat BratOK, he has to beat Garitos, starting strong. And I'm excited for this one, because I think BratOK has some tricks up his sleeve.
I hope he does, because right now in the group, BratOK is 0-1, losing his first series to DNS, actually, which, again, a very tight series. BratOK and DNS, probably a similar, similar expectations from those players in this event. So BratOK losing a first match that he definitely could have won, whereas Vanya 2-0'd Garitos previously and is now up against BratOK. So more than ever, it is essential that BratOK pulls something out, surprises his opponent, and maybe try something a little tricky to get that win here so that both players can move to a 1-1. Otherwise, BratOK will open 0-2, which, as we said earlier, a very deep hole to dig yourself out of. Now, BratOK is known as a Terran player, Grant. What are the... known as a Terran player. He's known as a mech player. Yes. What are the odds we see mech out of him against Vanya?
I think if he is going to play mech, we may well see it here on Eternal Empire with a lot of, more narrow alleyways. It's a very, it's sort of an S shape that you have to move through in order to get through. And that allows tanks to siege up and things like that. Oh, it's going to be a fusion core opening here. So we are going to see a battle cruiser opening, which has fallen out of favor a little, but it's certainly still very good. And I do like it against what we're seeing here, which seems to be 2-base muter coming from Vanya. The issue comes with what Vanya chooses to follow up with, and if Vanya can identify what he's playing against, because if he keeps muters at home or adds some corruptors in, it can be very, very difficult for the battlecruiser to find damage.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I think that battlecruiser openings have somewhat fallen out of favor is, as with any meta strategy, players learn how to adapt and change and adjust to it, and I've seen them doing fewer and fewer amounts of damage over the last few months, to the point where, I remember seeing them in GSL all the time a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, a couple years ago, and now they're just not unheard of, but certainly unpopular. Spire immediately going down, as you suspected there from Vanya, but let's see if this drop from BratOK going on the north side can do anything. This is a hybrid drop with 6 Marines and 1 Widow Mine.
Yeah, I really like this opening here. We're going to see a few Lings come in, but the Marines are going to be able to push that back. You see the Widowmine instantly burrowing. It's not going to be able to get to the mineral line, but if it can pick off some of those Lings, which it certainly does, now the Marines have there's not enough left.
No, there's not. The Link's getting a nice surface area on those Marines, but look at this one Rambo Marine taking shots from the Queen and getting healed up constantly. That's giving the Widowmine time to get back here, and the Widowmine with 10 kills about to add to that number with those drones, unless they're pulled soon. There we go. Whew, Vanya responding just in time. He's still going. Look at him.
He nearly got her.
He's jacked on stim right now.
Drinking that meth water. Now, Yamato being researched too here, so we're really seeing an investment into the battle cruisers. The first one not yet out, but is already 2/3 of the way done. It is just single starport, so no 2 BC, and no 2 starport BC, which is one of my favorite Terran openers. We see a few mutas on the way, but another drop here from BratOK, who's really piling on the pressure in this game one.
Yeah, wow. Great to see continued pressure. Of course, when you're going for a battle cruiser opening, you do want to drive the Zerg back as much as possible, try and force out as many units as possible, and this continued drop play, and I love the fact that it's not the same drops every time, is really, really great here. But the first mutas out are going to have something to say about these Hellions in their base.
Yeah, but this shows that it is mutas now, and it also gives the battle cruiser a decent angle. We should see him teleport across the map very, very shortly. Where is he right now? He's still sitting at home. Maybe going to sit back and try and catch the mutas unawares here, which could also be a good option, because the battle cruiser does do a lot of single target DPS. It makes units disappear quick. Plus, it's just bloody beautiful. God damn.
What a great model. I mean, this game is 10 years old and it still looks great. Maybe it's because I see it every day. And you know, once you get familiar with somebody, you look past their flaws. It's like you've been dating somebody for a lot of years. And somebody's like, oh, wow, she chews with her mouth open. You're like, I've never noticed that before. But I still love the models in StarCraft 2. They're so gorgeous. Muta's coming in here. The missile turret should finish up just in the nick of time.
Yeah, battle cruiser's not too far away either, and as we can see, that's a very good way to chase this away. Yamato cannon has finished. We're looking at our second battle cruiser popping in just 5 or so seconds, and this is one dead muta. Oh my god, that poor guy. Just flying around all batty like, and then you just explode out of nowhere.
Oh, poor guy, very worried. Now, what I am also worried about, though, is this muta count from Vanya. Look at the units tab right now, Grant. 10 of them already out and 5 more on the way, plus 1 flyer attacks. Vanya's not messing around here. He's not going Ling Bane muta so much as going muta.
Yeah, getting the +1 upgrade too, really powering out into those mutas. A mass muta is a style we see against mech from time to time. Maybe not the most efficient, because once 4s come out, they're pretty good. Widow Mines as well, once Tunneling Claws comes in, can be very deadly against these mutalisks, and you can already see these upgraded armoried Widow Mines are very, very difficult to deal with for the mass muta player. He needs to add on pneumatized carapace and things like that. But for now...
You got to get off of Fear Dragon's Twitter. That's the second time in 2 days you've talked about Widow Mines having tunneling claws. And I know that would be an amazing upgrade.
Wait!
Give Widow Mines tunneling claws. But you can't give Fear Dragon ideas like that, or he's going to tweet them. And listen to him, because he's a legitimate...
That's the rope upgrade.
A couple Yamato cannons going to take out the Queen there. The battlecruiser number 1 will go down, though.
That's a big loss.
You can't make that mistake with these battlecruisers. They're too expensive to lose when you should be able to teleport them out in time. A bit of a timing mistake from BratOK, and that shows that Vanya is really on top of things this game. 76 workers, 68 army supply, and Vanya going for base number 4.
I can't believe I've been calling them tunneling claws this entire time. You know when you just don't think something's wrong? Like, it's not even come from a place of ignorance, or it's just they have claws and they tunnel, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, 3 4s in the production tab already. Blue Flame being researched, 1 vehicle weapons on the way, which will give an upgrade advantage very momentarily here for our Terran player. But he's just lost 20 workers to these mutalisks.
I was about to say, is it too little, too late, Grant? Those mutas getting into the natural, taking down, because Vanya's up to the scary mutalisk clock now, 21. That's enough to 1v1 a battlecruiser. 1v1
just a bit.
He's gonna lose another battlecruiser as well, and had that overseer with the mutalisks as well, so we can not run into Widow Mines like that. Obviously, it's a very difficult micro check, but look at this. These mutalisks going to go ahead and engage with the Thors here. 1 Thor down. Second Thor going to go down as well, and this is looking worse and worse for BratOK.
Yeah, 3 4s at a time isn't going to be enough. You need a 4th and a 5th, my friend. GG is cooked, and Vanya styling in game 1.
Man, I think that game more or less came down to a lack of transition out of BratOK. I'm not sure what tech path he was really trying to go for in the early game. He just didn't get those Thors out quickly enough. The mutalisk number snowballed, and one of the reasons that Ling Bane Muta continues to be so popular is that mutas can strike anywhere, anytime. They're so mobile, and they're so dangerous. 5 seconds in your natural mineral line, it's gone.
Yeah, completely agree. And the drops, we saw those the hybrid drop attempt with the Marine 1v1ing the Queen, but really no damage was found. The Hellion drop as well got blocked. It got 3 or 4 workers. I think maybe 5 died in total in that early game. And for 2 medevacs, Widow Mines, all those Marines, all those Hellions, it wasn't enough. So BratOK tried to be aggressive and then follow it up with battle cruisers after he had already slowed his opponent down, but he didn't do the first part, let alone the second, where he slows his opponents down.
Yeah, BratOK's got to go for something different here in game number 2. He's a player who's known for his mech play, and we saw him cranking out lots and lots of Thors at the very end of the game, but the transition coming a little too late for him. I hope in game number 2 he'll consider Bio as an alternative. Bio, I think, is the more traditional counter to Ling Bane Muta, just because Marines are so dang good against all 3 of those things. BratOK, though, not a player particularly well known for his micro, for his splitting, more well known for good tactical awareness and good map awareness and stuff. Not that he's incapable of splitting Marines, but might be a better choice for him this game. We'll see if he's able to respond as we get into Death Aura LE for game number 2 in this best of 3.
And our first player in the bottom right of Death Aura, playing for B100 SC, he is the Russian Zerg player, the Bratan. It's Vanya.
And his fellow countryman, representing Starcom Gaming and the Terran race. In the red, it's BratOK.
Now, sitting here on Death Aura, it's not a bad mech map. There are certainly some very nice positions if you can get mass tanks to siege up outside the 3rd and the 4th. It can be very difficult to break these tight angles, but there are a lot of opportunities to flank once you take down all of the destructible rocks up here in the center. It becomes very easy late game. BratOK, though, he's not going mech, Brayton.
I was really disappointed, Grant. I always look forward to your map, your little map 101 lessons every now and then. You'll pop onto a map and you're like, let me talk about how cool this map is and why it's great in the late game for this, and this. And if the players get up to a flank or can counter, not going to happen. BratOK going straight into a triple proxy racks here, Grant. This is exactly what we talked about in game 1. He's got to come up with something wacky, and he's got to go for Bio in game number 2 if he really wants to have a chance against Vanya going Ling Bane Muta. Luckily for Vanya, the spawning pool will be finished pretty quickly. He did go for a earlier pool than usual. Yeah, pool first. But it's still going to be a tough hold.
Yeah, so Vanya hasn't scouted this. He's scouting 4 proxies, I believe, by sending this Overlord to the position he has. Yeah, he's certainly looking to see if he could see anything coming from this angle, which isn't happening here, but he hasn't scouted up to the north. Wow, okay, so we are seeing the 4th racks. This is the most intense all-in version. I've seen this win before, but it is going to hit a pretty good time here for Vanya. Vanya's getting a first queen. He still hasn't seen this. He will see it pretty soon. He needs to bring the links home straight away. Oh my god, Vanya hasn't seen it yet.
Oh boy, this is looking worse and worse here for Vanya. Still very possible. Okay, still very possible to hold, but is he going to bring the Lings back home or send him straight across to try and do SCV damage? It looks like he's still sending him across to do SCV damage. The bunker's already down though. Spinecrawler on the high ground. Is Vanya responding appropriately here, Grant?
The spine on the high ground is nice. I think it's too late for the natural at this point. He needs to just minimize damage done. And not take any access. He is going to find damage on the other side of the map, be it in workers or mining time. He needs to keep his APM up, of course, but the spine needs to get up. I think it was maybe built a bit too far forward. It was a bit premature. Drones coming off the line here. The ramp, a good place to fight if you're a Marine, because it's much more difficult to be surrounded. Marines going down quite handily, though. A decent defense so far as we see damage at the other side of the map. SCV's falling, and now the spine stands, and I'm starting to feel a little bit better for Vanya.
A little bit, but not a lot, certainly, Grant. Remember, we're on 4 barracks right now, even though only 3 are producing at a time because BratOK's income is so limited. There we go. Finally, a 4th one comes down. But the Lings on the other side have been cleaned up by those SCVs, only getting 5 SCV kills, but the damage continues for BratOK here. The Spine trying to reposition that the Spine will go down. Good transfuse there. We'll keep it alive. Wow. Vanya, I thought he was going to lose that Spine for sure, but BratOK is pushed back here. But the Marine count still continues to grow. 14 Lings on the way for Vanya.
Yeah, as the Ling count grows, this spine is healthy. The queens have been transfused. Also, look at that spine just chomp on these Marines. They absolutely vanish. And Vanya putting himself into a better position as the game goes on. metabolic boost, that circling speed finishing in just 10 seconds. And now all of a sudden, the light at the end of the tunnel for BratOK is getting that little bit dimmer because he needs to make something happen. He needs the perfect fight. And this is not how it begins.
Oh, with the Ling wrap around, Vanya is going to